official story on 9/11 is a complete lie. The 9/11 report is a joke.
You have the CIA following two men all over the planet, and then eventually even to America, right? And you don't tell the FBI. 9/11 Commission cover.
So what did happen? What did the government know? What did foreign governments know? There was a cover-up. Why? It's been nearly 25 years. It is time Americans learned what actually happened.
The whole world is waking up to the plot and plans that the Zionists have been doing for decades. On US Liberty Ship, to 9/11, to JF Kennedy's killing. Call it conspiracy, call it whatever you like. It's not coincidence. It is not a coincidence. And here is the footage of Piers Morgan and Tucker Carlson. And the American people are waking up. They're waking up. It's the beginning of the end of Israel. Here's what they have to say.
And I'm really struck. We spent the last 4 months looking into 9/11, reassessing the explanations we were given by the government for 9/11. And one of the things that really struck me was the viciousness with which anyone who questioned it, certainly in the first several years, was treated with. You know, they were dismissed as crazy. By the way, I participated in that.
Yeah.
I attacked people who questioned 9/11, so I'm very culpable there. But there's a very simple way to dispel conspiracy theories, to make people with dumb ideas look foolish, and that's by disclosing what actually happened. It's by telling the truth. It's through transparency that you gain trust. It's not, I mean, if you ask your children, where were you last night? I'm not going to tell you. Does that engender trust? Of course not. It destroys it. And so there's also a sense in which it's outrageous that the US government could presume to hide from the people who own the country, the citizens, the truth about an event that changed the nation more than any other in our lifetimes, any since the Civil War. It's a completely different country since 9/11. Millions of people died in the aftermath of 9/11. And so what exactly is the justification for not telling us what happened that day? And they haven't.
Exactly. What is the justification? I can remember before I came to Islam, subhanAllah, this thing of 9/11, and I was looking into it. I was watching a lot of videos, and then I came across a website, which I'm going to share with you guys, inshallah, called Rethink 9/11. As you can see on the page, dawn is coming, September 13th, 10 a.m. And these are demolition experts, fire brigades, firemen, scientists who are looking at this and saying it doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. And believe me, when you go down that rabbit hole, it gets deeper and deeper. And as you can see, 9/11 whistleblower, I urge you guys to watch that as well, because Tucker Carlson goes in detail. And believe me, the American people are waking up to who really controls their country, the United States of Israel.
Khalid al-Mihdhar, who was a 26-year-old Saudi, the plane that hit the Pentagon, was in the San Diego phone book, and he was being followed by the CIA. I mean, this is all documented. And not just by the CIA, by foreign intel services, probably the British, possibly the French, definitely the Israelis. They knew. Now, I'm not alleging that they committed 9/11, but I am stating, because it's a fact, that they were aware the hijackers were in the US and were planning a terror attack against the United States, and they never passed that information to the FBI, to local police, much less to the American public, and 3,000 people died as a result. So what is that? Huge parts of the 9/11 story were left out of the commission report.
Why isn't it impossibility? Governments have done false flag attacks for centuries. It's one of the tools they use in the toolbook. That's what they do. They do false flag attacks so they can blame it on. That's what the Liberty was attacked. The US Liberty was attacked. Why? Because the Israelis wanted the Americans to join in, and that's what they've been doing. And not only that, you'll be shocked to find out what Benjamin Netanyahu, the Iblis, may Allah rip his soul into pieces, inshallah, what he said about this, guys. You'll be shocked.
For example, what happened to Building 7, which was not only not next to the Twin Towers, which were hit by airplanes, but had a building in between itself and those buildings, collapsed that afternoon for reasons that no one has been able to explain since. You're not a lunatic for asking. There's no plausible explanation for how that building collapsed.
Well, so let's talk about that.
That's not even mentioned.
Well, let's talk about that for a moment, because
Yes.
it's one of the many things that have raged since. If you look into the investigation into Tower 7, the findings of the investigation into it were that the North Tower, when it came down, had set off a load of fires in Building 7. And it was a steel structure and shouldn't have gone down, but it did. That these fires burned all afternoon, and I think it was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon or something, the tower eventually gave way to the welter of fires raging inside it.
Get the hell out of here, man. Get the flipping hell out of here, man. World Trade Center 7 fell. It's like demolition. It's like full demolition. A free fall. Yes? The whole entire world. Man, this is against physics, man. This is science, man. And you're telling me debris and fire from there caused that to collapse? Nowhere in history has fire that started from another building or wherever causes an entire structure like that to fall, free fall. Get out of here, man. Get the hell out of here.
By the way, there was a team, this is according to the FBI, by the way, this is the FBI saying, there was a team of clearly intel-connected foreigners who were arrested after 9/11, as you well know, videotaping the terror attacks. This is, I'm almost verbatim quoting from the FBI assessment of this. And the FBI determined that they apparently had foreknowledge of the attacks. So why can't we know more about that? Exactly.
Okay, just this one here. Watch this video, guys. Yeah, I'm going to play a little video for you guys on YouTube. Unbelievable. Check this out, guys. Yeah, okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, in this video, I'm going to be going over a very interesting story. It is the story of the dancing Israelis. Now, I'm sure many of you might have a very vague recollection of the phrase dancing Israelis, and I'm guessing a lot of you probably think in your mind that it was some conspiracy theory, or that it was fake, or that it was some type of anti-Semitic stuff. It was 1000% real, so real to the point of the government having to declassify photos of the 5 dancing Israelis because of a Freedom of Information Act request, and I'm going to review everything that transpired related to the story. Now, the main part of the story did happen on September 11th, 2001 in New York City, but there was a lot of lead up and a lot of things that happened after the fact as well. A simple definition of the dancing Israelis were 5 men perched from an advantageous position in clear view of both towers, dancing, posing, and celebrating with a camera as the towers burned in the background. It was so noticeable, a bystander who was looking at the towers with binoculars over the top of the parking lot reported the 5 men to the police, along with their white van, which supposedly was part of their moving company, Urban Movers. The men left in their white van sometime after both towers were hit. At around 3 o'clock in the afternoon on September 11th, an alert went out to the police to look for this white van. A few hours later, they were able to track it down. The van was pulled over, and the men were investigated in New Jersey. The 5 Israelis originally denied having involvement in this event, saying their advantageous view was just a coincidence, and that they got there after the first building was hit. However, it was later reported that the white van was seen there at around 8 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time before the first plane was hit. I should also make a note here that the 5 men claimed they saw the towers burning, and that attracted them to the advantageous position. The US government has confirmed that there are photographs that exist of the 5 men smiling, laughing, and even in one instance, holding up a lighter right under where one of the towers was burning. There were around 80 total photos. The arrested Israelis were caught with money in their socks and tested positive for explosive residue in their van and on their clothing. The company that they worked for, Urban Movers, was later found to be a shell company started by another Israeli. When the FBI went to question him 3 days after September 11th, he fled to Israel. It was said that there was an abnormal amount of computers located inside the moving company's offices. They were all seized by the FBI. The 5 men were held for 70 days and then deported back to Israel, where they later admitted on Israeli TV that they were in New York City as Mossad agents there to document the event. The Mossad is the National Intelligence Agency of Israel. So how is that really possible?
You cannot make this up. You cannot make this up. 5 Israelis. Before the planes hit, after they hit, they are rejoicing. Then they admit they have connections to Mossad. Guys. These people are evil. Every evil that happens on this earth, they are behind 99% of them. Why? For the greater Israel plan. And the whole world is waking up. The whole world, as Zionists that are watching this are smiling. They know what they're about. They know. They've been doing this. They don't care about it. Like Candace Owens said, today they kill the Gaza children, tomorrow it's going to be okay. They don't care. They'll take everybody out with their Samson option, the nuclear weapons that they have. They will take America out. You dare to jeopardize or be a threat to their existence, they will take everybody out. This is how evil they are.
And by the way, I should say, the main beneficiary in the United States of those attacks was the CIA, which allowed them to happen. So the CIA budget became, more than doubled. Of course, we're not allowed to know what the CIA budget is, even in government. This is a fact, by the way. If you ask a high-level official at the White House currently, what's the CIA's full budget? They can't tell you.
So, okay, let's see what Piers Morgan has to say.
What you're suggesting with your phraseology about that is that the CIA were part of a kind of inside track knowledge about what may happen, which is obviously an incredibly serious
No, I'm not
charge.
suggesting that. I'm not suggesting that. I'm stating the facts, which are that the CIA was fully aware that many of these hijackers were here, that those visas were issued in a country with which we have very close security service cooperation at a time when John Brennan was running the station there.
But that's different to saying that they knew what was going to happen.
Well, they actually did know that these people were planning a terror attack because they surveilled a meeting planning it in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia a year before, and then followed the guy as he came to the United States and arrived in San Diego for flight training. So again, I'm not guessing about any of this. These are established facts. There's no person, including then CIA Director George Tenet, who would deny this. They'll say, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Okay, fine, whatever, attack my character as you will, but tell me how I'm wrong, and of course I'm not wrong. So
well,
I'm not
all I would
alleging or
say,
suggesting anything.
I'm not saying you're right
know.
or wrong or anything. All I'm saying is that from everything you're saying, it is a leap. It is a leap. There is a demonstrable difference, I would argue, and by all means push back on this, but I would argue that there's a demonstrable leap between knowledge of bad people moving around and maybe monitoring them and aware they may be up to bad things, but actually having coherent, clear knowledge in advance that they were planning the attack using planes on the World Trade Center.
I understand. You're saying that intent matters, and I would not. Of course, I would not dispute that. Intent does matter. It matters under the law, and it matters morally. Did you mean to do it? Yes, that matters.
100%. Get the hell out of here, man. There's 3 options. Israel done it. 100%. Everyone in the world knows this. It's an open secret. Let's go with they didn't do it, but they had knowledge of it, but they let it happen. Number 3, they didn't do it, but Benjamin Netanyahu clearly said that he was happy that it happened. You're a sicko if you done it, if you knew it but allowed it, and if it did happen you didn't know and you were happy about it. You're a sicko. That's like the far right, like Tommy Robinson, whose friends, colleagues have admitted he gets happy. Yes, he gets happy when terrorist attacks happen because it suits his agenda. How sick do you have to be that you are happy when an attack happens of innocent people because it suits your agenda? You're a sicko.
In your series, do you dispel some of the sort of madder conspiracy theories? And I'll give an example, which you may or may not agree with me as mad, but there's been a raging conspiracy theory ignited again by what's happened in Gaza, that Israel was somehow implicated in 9/11. It was in their interests for that to happen because then it would lead rage against all their enemies in the Middle East and so on. And yet, of course, if you look at the people who died, at least, I think, 110 or more people who died that day were known to be Jewish. It is estimated maybe another 80 were Jewish, which meant that about 10% of all the victims that day were likely to have been Jewish, which would seem to dispel...
How does that dispel anything? It doesn't dispel nothing. At the end of the day, they have a protocol, the Hannibal Directive, which they kill their own people. They don't care. They're hostages. They don't give a damn about the hostages, man. They see that as, you know what, we'll sacrifice them for the greater goal of Israel. 10 Jews or Zionists or whatever, they're going to get killed. Innocent people there. They harm their own people. They don't care. These people, the Zionists, have worked with Hitler. They've worked with damn Hitler, bro. And you think they care about it? They look at the bigger picture. 5 of us get killed, but we can save a couple of 100,000. Let it be. Let it be.
The suggestion this was some Jewish thing that they had been involved with.
I wouldn't say a Jewish thing. I would say a Zionist thing. Yes. You know, just because every Zionist is a Jew doesn't mean it's a Jewish thing at all. Not at all.
But do you tackle that kind of conspiracy theory? In other words, as well as exploring stuff that you think needs to be highlighted and exposed and we need to know more about, do you also dispel stuff which has been allowed to rage around for nearly 25 years now and kill that off?
Well, it hasn't so much been allowed, it's actually been greatly discouraged. Benjamin Netanyahu on camera right after said this is a good thing because it brings the United States into a conflict that we've been involved in on an existential level for decades. I mean, he said that out loud. I'm not guessing, you can pull the tape. We know that a group of Israeli art students, who clearly were not art students, clearly some of them were aligned with Israeli intelligence, were arrested and held for quite some time in the United States before being released without charges. And we know that a group of them, again, I'm quoting an FBI document here, not the internet, filmed the attacks on 9/11, and I'm quoting, seemed to have foreknowledge of those attacks.
Unbelievable. My friend, just call it out as it is, bro. It's Zionist scumbags who have orchestrated this. They've orchestrated it. Simple as that, man. The proof is in the pudding.
You were not allowed to follow up in any of this. Fox News did a series with Brit Hume and Carl Cameron, which many people have seen in a bootleg version on the internet, but they did it like within weeks, saying, what is this? There was an Israeli spy ring in the United States, and they clearly knew 9/11 was coming. This is Fox News. They pulled that under pressure. They pulled that off the internet. It's not searchable in any Fox News archive, but they aired it. I know the people who did it. Of course, I worked with them for years. They're real people. They're not crazy. In fact, they're pro-Israel, but they had a fact set before them, and they reported it, which is called journalism. And subsequent generations have been forbidden from noting what is now factually true. Those are factually true statements. I'm an American, and I think it's not only fair, but my moral obligation to find out what the hell was this. And you're calling me names is not going to stop me because I've been here my whole life, and my family's been here a long time. I don't have to take orders from you about what I'm allowed to know or not know because it's my country. That's the kind of democratic spirit that informed this country my entire life until 9/11, after which it became a thought crime to ask obvious questions. And I'm just not going to play along, period.
And let me be honest, it's people like Tucker Carlson that is going to bring the truth to light. It's people like him who's going to be vocal about it, who's doing documentary about it, that the entire world is going to wake up. Because other people just silent and name calling, Candace Owens, himself, so many people in America are waking up, and the Israelis are crapping themselves. Here's the last clip, inshallah.
That this focus on Iran is not actually connected to our national security. How many Shiite terror attacks have there been in the United States in my lifetime? Let me do the math. 0. So don't tell me that the greatest threat we face is Iran. That's a lie. You're telling it on behalf of a foreign power. Maybe they feel the greatest threat they face is Iran. It's not the greatest threat we face. It's not an endorsement of Iran, okay? Doesn't make me a simp for the Shiites. It just makes me an American who's trying to think clearly about what our problems are. And our problems would include tens of millions of foreign nationals living illegally in my country. Nobody knows their identities. They would include a collapsing economy that makes it very hard for my children to have children and live the life that they grew up with and their friends and all American kids. It would include a drug crisis that's killed millions of Americans over the past 20 millions of Americans over the last 20 years. Iran is not even in the top 10 list. So you can scream at me all you want and call me names and call me a bigot or whatever, but there's no evidence to support that. And so if the energy of the US government is focused on a threat that's not the primary threat to us, it is by definition ignoring threats that are.
Thank you. Exactly. The only threat that is Iran is a threat to is what Israel. Even that. It's not America. So it's clear, guys. Alhamdulillah. And you can see, subhanAllah. And I would urge you guys to go to rethink911.org, watch Tucker Carlson's documentary, and wake yourself up. If you don't know about this, I came across it. This was one of the reasons I came to Islam. One of the reasons, because I can remember, I was like, wow, this is all a big fat lie, man. And one thing I will ask Allah on the Day of Judgment, bro, is like a movie. I want to see how they orchestrated this evil plot against all of those innocent people, Americans, Jewish people that died, Muslims that got killed, Christians that are being killed. I really want to see, subhanAllah, how their evil plot was. And hellfire is sufficient for them.